All right, let's do this thing. All right, so we're talking Portland. Do this tier list. Remember, chat, if you got any questions for me about anything, or if you think I'm wrong with something, state why. I'll try and answer why I think I'm right. Well, let's just set our baseline again, I think with S tiers. So I think Guardy. I guess like Guardy Mewtwo V Union will set us like Guardy plus Guardy Mewtwo V Union slash Guardy Tech for Lost Box matchup. So like the Klefki Hatterini stuff, it'll just be like all under the same umbrella of Guardy Mewtwo V Union. But yeah, Gardevoir I think is S tier. And I think a decent amount of Lost Box decks. And this is going to be specifically for Portland meta as well. It's just not like in a vacuum in this format, what is the best decks? It's just like for Portland, what do I feel like are the strongest decks? And I guess as I put them up here, I'll talk about how popular I think they'll be as well, because that's something to discuss as well. I also think Guardy will probably be in the top 3 most popular decks. Maybe first, but it'll probably be number 2. My prediction is that Guardy will be the second most popular deck behind Lost Box still. There's like that many more variants of Lost Box being played now too, so that always leads to more people playing it. Lost Box was still the most popular deck in online for the most part, it feels like. And in online tournaments, sometimes Guardy is more popular, I feel like, but Lost Box is still like number 2 almost always. And I feel like come tournament time, there's gonna be a little bit more Lost Box than Guardy. So Guardy expect to be second most popular. Lost Box I think will be the most popular. And it depends how they do it on the graphic on the stream, because they could like separate Sablezard. All the other Lost Box variants should be together, but they could put Sablezard separately. But I do think Lost Box, like Turbo and Kyogre are both pretty good right now. No one really has Manaphy in any of their decks. If people like added Manaphy back to their decks, then Kyogre probably wouldn't be as good. But like there's no Manaphy in Lugia. There's no Manaphy in Arceus decks. If people added Manaphy back to those kind of decks, I think Kyogre wouldn't be that good, but no one's doing that right now, so I think Kyogre is really good right now. I don't expect anyone to really make that adjustment going into the tournament either, because Kyogre's like not that popular. So I put these things as S. Remember, this is like for Portland meta. This is not like overall. Like, I don't know if I'd always have Kyogre up here in S tier. I think Sablezard is also really, really good right now. I'm a huge, like, it's my favorite deck to play. It just feels really strong. Now that I've cut like the Mawile and Pidgeotto package and stuff and like added more consistency, it feels that much smoother. So big fan of Sablezard. I also think it's in a really good position. I feel like no one's really going too far the way to like counter Lost Zone decks in general, so Sablezard just feels good. I wouldn't play it with the Mawile package. I would just play it without it. I'll have like my new updated list on the YouTube channel sometime later this week. It might not be before Portland, to be honest, but it'll be going up there soon on in a video with that. So but yeah, there's different ways to play the Kyogre build for sure. Everyone knows Moffat's build, but the homie Ryan Simons has been killing it in like online tournaments. Actually, Ryan Simons' online tournament record is kind of impressive. I'm not gonna lie. Don't let him know I said that. And then also he like won a League Cup recently and stuff. Obviously not as well known of a player, but his like he's been winning like a lot of like 100% online tournaments like over and over. Like his consistency over the last couple of weeks and even in these smaller tournaments has been pretty impressive. So and that build I actually like more than Moffat's. I like Ryan Simons' build more than Moffat's. I don't like the Moltres. I tried Moffat's build out. The Moltres just felt useless. But let's finish up the Lost Box decks here. Lost Box guy Sealstone, still really good, but I don't think it's as powerful as these right now. I think just like the consistency of the 4 Sealstone, really good. The consistency slash minimalistic kind of approach of Sablezard and how like straightforward it is. Like you just have less stuff to worry about when you're lost owning cards is really cool for Sablezard. Like I think it's a big strength. And then the power of Kyogre is kind of unmatched. Even if it makes your deck a little bit more clunky, a little bit less consistent, you still have that comeback, that big comeback with the Kyogre. So, but Sky Sealstone is like, it's a very powerful combo, but it's so hard to set up and utilize. I just don't think Sky Sealstone is as good. Some people are doing like the 1-4 Sealstone, 1 Sky Sealstone split. I don't really like that. I like the double 4 Sealstone, just to be consistent. Like +1 out to Colress is just huge. I don't really like the 1 Sky Sealstone, 1-4 Sealstone split, but there are some matchups like Mew, where having just that, the Sky Sealstone is like a pretty big deal, and also the Goodra matchup. So maybe the 1-1 is correct because of that in certain metas, but overall, if you're going full Sky Sealstone, I think that actually is not that good. The 1-1 split is like interesting. I still just think double 4 Sealstone is super good. So I still have like the Sky Sealstone, like just only Sky Sealstone build. This is like the only Sky Sealstone build. This build with the 4 Sealstone. Some people have double 4 Sealstone. Some people have a 2-1 split of 2 4 Sealstone, 1 Sky Sealstone, and some people have 1 Sky Sealstone, 1 4 Sealstone. So I'll put those are kind of all jumbled into there, but this is just like pure Sky Sealstone. I think it's just a little bit weaker than the rest of the builds. I'll also put the other Guardy build up here. This is going to be like Guardy Mewtwo V Union / Lost Box counters. Just like the Hatterini Klefki stuff, just Klefki plus Mewtwo V Union, whatever. It's okay. I just think the consistency that you lose to add all those pieces to help your you do increase your lost box win percentage. I do think that is true. You do increase your lost box win percentage, but I think the drawback of hurting your win percentage against literally every single other deck in the format besides Mew, because Klefki is really good against Mew, is not worth the trade-off. So yeah, Guardy, lost box counters, lost box matchup gets better, but I don't think the trade-off of hurting all your other matchup percentages is worth the trade-off. Even if, like, lost box is probably going to be about like 18-20% of the meta. Like, lost box will probably be 18-20%. Guardy probably around 15% of the meta. So yeah, lost box and general stuff 18-20% of the meta. Guardy 15% of the meta, including both builds. Both builds probably around 50% of the meta. I don't know if they'll be like split up on the graph on the official stream. That's what I'm most curious about, is how they're going to split that stuff up. Like, is Sablezard going to be included in lost box on the graph or not, is always an interesting question. So that'll maybe knock the popularity of lost box by a decent amount, because like Sablezard is like, I don't know, maybe like a quarter of the percentage of total like Comfy non-V attacking decks. Well, I guess this one has V, so it doesn't really count, but you know, like lost box, more lost box style decks, not just lost zone decks. And I'll go with like the deck, let's go from there with the deck that I think will be the third most popular on the list, which is Mew. And I think Mew is pretty good. I do think Mew is pretty good, actually. I definitely was wrong initially, but the Mew deck has really just changed into like literally Path Judge Simulator the deck. It doesn't feel like, it felt like last format there was matchups you could overpower. I think Mew has like 0 matchups that you actually overpower now, and you're literally winning because you're just the best Path Judge deck. And I think Mew will probably be the third most popular deck in the tournament. The only deck that I see competing with it is Lugia, so that's probably third and fourth in my mind right now. Is Lugia and Mew are probably going to be 3 and 4, and I could see Lugia being more popular, to be honest. It just feels like Lugia's popularity online has dropped a ton, like a lot. It seems to be like a general consensus that the deck is pretty unfun to play. That's how I feel about it. I know not everyone feels that way, but definitely seems to be like more people feel that way as well. Like, it's just not a fun deck to play, is Lugia. And I don't think the deck is as powerful as I initially thought it was. And I think there seems to be a little bit of a general consensus on that. It's not quite as powerful as everyone thought it was. It's still very good, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's pushing for like a lone S tier position anymore. But yeah, Mew, really solid deck. Not a very enjoyable gameplay experience though, because like I said, you're just a Judge Path deck, and it's just like, whatever. You will always be decent, but like your lost box matchups, you struggle against those. Should be playing Drapion on your Sablezard as well. Make sure you play Drapion on your Sablezard. Don't do what I did at UIC. Yeah, don't not play Drapion on your Sablezard at UIC like me and my group did. Put your Drapion in your Sablezard for sure. Definitely include a Drapion. And yeah, so Mew struggles against the lost box decks. I also think you're unfavored against Guardy, but not by a whole ton. Like, you're unfavored against lost box and Guardy, but Judge Path is good. You're getting pretty close. It might even be like 45-55s against those, where you're like slightly unfavored. But like you come out on top against a lot of the other decks in the format, and it's like you kind of have a chance of against everything. As me, like I said, if you're unfavored, it's not by a whole ton. Yeah, it's not by a whole ton that you're unfavored. You are just unfavored a little bit. Let's go with that deck that I said was going to be third, fourth. Is Lugia, and I still put it in A tier, I think, as well. I'll still put Lugia in A tier. Like I said, not a very enjoyable deck to play. It'll be third, fourth most popular alongside Mew. And your matchup against Guardy, the real reason that Guardy or Lugia can't push for S tier right now, I think, is because your Guardy matchup is definitely unfavorable, I feel like. And Guardy's going to be like a lot more popular this time around. A lot of people seem to think that Lugia is really, really good against lost box decks, but I think against Kyogre, like against Sablezard, I think you can make an argument for that, especially if you have an out to the Mawile. If you have an out to the Mawile, you have Penny, the Escape Rope, the Thornton, which most Lugia decks do play Thornton right now, and they're either playing like the Single Strike Urshifu or the Duraludon. And I guess it's like the other question is, what should you play in your Lugia deck? Should you play Single Strike Urshifu, Duraludon, or neither? I think with how popular Goodra is going to be, you should probably play one of them. You should definitely play Duraludon or Single Strike Urshifu, because I think your Goodra matchup is unfavorable with neither. So I think you definitely need to play one of them, and Goodra's going to be pretty popular. Goodra will probably be the 5th most popular deck. Around like Lugia, Mew, and Goodra. I think Goodra will be around 10%. I think Lugia and Mew will be anywhere from like 10 to 15% of the meta. They'll be in that range somewhere. That'd be my prediction for their range. And then Goodra will be around 10%, like 8 to 10. So I think it'll fall somewhere in there. Yeah, I think the most powerful way to play Lugia is with Duraludon. It's a little bit less consistent than just straightforward. The Single Strike Urshifu is like the least consistent and least, not least powerful. It does feel like it's maybe least powerful of the 3 builds, but it is essential to kind of play the Single Strike Urshifu, I feel like, if you expect a lot of Duraludon. It also matches up pretty well for your Goodra matchup, but I think you want to be able to play the Duraludon. Yeah, you want to play Duraludon, I feel like, because I think Duraludon is the most powerful version of the deck. But if everyone's playing Duraludon, then you kind of have to play Single Strike Urshifu. So currently in the meta, I don't think we're going to see too much Arc Dura. It doesn't seem like all the Lugia players, and if you're playing Dura though in Lugia and everyone else is playing Single Strike Urshifu, you also kind of have to match them with Single Strike Urshifu. But with how popular Lugia is, I think you can maybe get away with Duraludon this time around, because I don't expect, Arc Dura, I don't think it's going to be a thing, and there could be a bounce back of Arc Dura in a future tournament, but like around this time around, I think everyone's prepared for it and preparing for it. Kind of knows about it. So I think if I was to play Lugia, I think I would risk it and play the Duraludon over the Single Strike Urshifu, and then just kind of hope that you don't hit any other Lugias playing the Single Strike Urshifu, or any other Lugias hitting Dura specifically. Because if they play Dura and you play Dura, you're going to wish you had the Single Strike Urshifu to have the kind of edge in the matchup. But I think I would go with the Dura here, because I think Dura is the most powerful way to play the deck. Single Strike Urshifu is like, I don't know, if you get off the big attack with it once, you have to like kind of run it back on the big attack, and it can be hard to do sometimes. So I think the Dura is the most powerful, but Ursh is still a decent, and if you do predict, if you personally I think there's going to be a lot of Duraludon in Lugias or Arc Duras, or a decent amount, then I think you should go with Single Strike Urshifu. But my prediction is that Dura would probably be pretty safe and is like the better way to play the deck. So I would like take the risk. I think if I was going to play Lugia, I would take the risk and go for that. So the fifth most popular deck, or I guess because I already talked about Mew, I can talk about Meloetta Mew too. It's not great. I think it's pretty bad. Not quite D tier bad. We reserve that specifically for Lasso and Tina, but I think it is still pretty bad. Like, your Lost Box matchups are way worse with this build than the Path build. And I don't think, like, the one argument I think for the Meloetta build is your Lugia matchup might get better with the Meloetta over the Path build. You don't have, like, the Judge Path combos consistently, though, so I don't know. You do play it sometimes. Do you think the Lost Box matchup doesn't push Guardy back in the tier? No, because I think Guardy's matchup against everything else that isn't Lost Box is favorable, like solidly favorable. Like, I think Guardy is just favored against Lugia, favored against Mew, you're favored against Gudra. Like, you're solidly favored against everything else that's not Lost Box. So your expected win percentage with Guardy, even though you're unfavored against Lost Box, is so high that it makes up for the fact that you have a poor Lost Box matchup. And I was even saying that like before, and I think Tord's run kind of reflected that. It's like Tord hit one Lost Box, still did beat it as well. And then kind of beat everything else for the most part. So I think Tord's run reflected that. And I was saying that pre-EUIC as well. It's like, I think Guardy's matchup against everything that's not Lost Box, you're solidly favored. It's not like, am I slightly favored? I might be. It's like, no, Guardy's just favored against everything else. So that makes up for the fact that your Lost Box matchup is tough. It makes up for the fact that your Lost Box matchup is tough. But yeah, so your overall expected outcome in the tournament is still really good with Guardy, even though you have an unfavorable Lost Box matchup, because all your other matchups are so solid. Left out Dialga, we did that on purpose. Okay, so yeah, this Mew build is just worse than this one. Like, your Lost Box matchups are worse. Your Guardy matchup is maybe the same, but I would predict to be a little bit worse because you don't have Pat Judge. So you're setting up more aggressively as the Guardy player. And then your Lugia matchup is maybe the one spot where you have a slight advantage. I could see that being true. But I don't even know if I'm like convinced on that, to be honest. So yeah, not a great deck right now. Not truly terrible. And yeah, you just like suffer against most things. So let's move on to Gudra then. What I think will be the fifth most popular deck is the Gudra. I actually think Gudra's pretty good right now. I'm gonna put it in A as well, which this is kind of a cool meta. We have a lot of like decks that are like towards the top, I feel like. Which is cool. It's cool to see a lot of decks towards the top. And remember, once again, this is just Portland. And remember, if you guys are going to ask me questions in chat, at me. It's a lot easier to pick out the questions that you guys are asking me specifically if you at me in the chat. How do you think the Gudra Lugia matchup is if you have Articuno? Do you have any tips on how you'd play it as Gudra? I haven't tested that a whole ton. And if you expect a lot of Duraludon, and Lugia and Urshifu, playing the Articuno might be worth it in the Gudra deck, because that is tough for Gudra to deal with. I think you probably are slightly unfavored as Gudra, but actually having played the deck, that matchup a little bit, I actually don't think it's that bad for Gudra if they have Duraludon or Single Strike Urshifu. I don't think it's the end of the world, because you can do stuff like hit with Cram plus Roxanne them on the turn where they bring up the Urshifu or the Duraludon. Sometimes you just get to boss it ahead of time and punch it. So I actually don't think that matchup is terrible for Gudra. Yeah, it's not terrible for Gudra, but the Articuno can maybe flip it from being like unfavorable to like fine. Which decks are you thinking of bringing to Portland? I mean, Sable's Art's like my favorite right now, but I've never really locked in on a deck too close to a tournament. How does Lost Box and Kyogre do against Gudra? If you play the Echoing Horn like a lot of people have been, I think the matchup's probably fine. It's not a matchup I'm haven't played extensively. It still sounds like it might be Gudra favored though. It might be tough against Gudra, but the Horn, you definitely need the Horn to have a chance, I think. Is it worth playing Galarian Moltres Lost Box? I haven't played enough of it. I wasn't a big fan of the Galarian Moltres. I'm a big fan of Snorlax, though. If you're not playing V, even in the Forest Sealstone V build, Snorlax still sounds really, really good, to be honest. Snorlax just kind of slaps right now. Snorlax slaps for sure. Tower of Darkness Lugia build, haven't tried it at all. It doesn't seem as good as the Collapse Stadiums. Collapse Stadium is really, really good in Lugia. I think Collapse Stadium is super good in Lugia, especially for the Lost Box matchup, but any matchup to remove liabilities from play. And then like Mezagoza, just finding Pokemon just like, such a big deal. I would have to like play it more with like Tower of Darkness to see if like the extra draw power turn to turn actually makes up for that or not, but it doesn't seem like it would. Like for Sealstone and Gardevoir more than Sky Sealstone, I haven't played it enough, but it was decent when I tried it out the other day. Who's favored in chip versus Azul? Azul every time. So yeah, Guja. Very solid right now. Definitely a lot more solid than I gave credit for. The Guardian matchup, like I said, is unfavorable, but it's not as unfavorable as I thought it was. Your Lost Box matchups are decent. You're unfavored against your Sablezard is a really bad matchup. For Sealstone builds are fine. Kyogre with the horn seems like they have a chance, but I would still say it's no worse than 50-50 probably for Guja in that matchup against Kyogre with the Echoing Horn. But I haven't played it like a whole ton, so that'd be like something I'd have to like test more. But this is my current like current view on that matchup. And then Guja versus the Lugia matchup, which will also be another pretty popular matchup. Your matchup against Mew is also fine as well. You can run the double Drapion if you really want to take out Mew. I think the matchup is about 50-50 with one Drapion though in Guja. So I don't think you have to go the double Drapion route in Guja to actually beat Mew. I think with one you're getting about to 50-50. But with the double Drapion, I think you are beating it majority of the time. So if you're really trying to just beat Mew, you can go with the double Drapion route. I think maybe it would be better to put that slot towards a potential Articuno to help deal with Lugia's playing Duraludon and Single Strike Urshifu. So I would consider that maybe instead. But I've been fine with one Drapion and Guja. I've always felt like the matchup's like about 50-50. So if you're really trying to beat him though, put the second Drapion in. But I think the Articuno and the Guja, that's something I haven't tested a whole ton. It does theoretically help in the matchup, but setting up the Articuno has been a problem every time I've played it. Setting up the Articuno is just hard to do, especially if you're getting judged against Lugia and stuff. You can like kind of put it on your bench, but then they could boss it before you get into the active. But that is another turn where they're not punching your Guja, which is nice. But yeah, Guja actually holds up a little bit better than I thought against Single Strike Urshifu and the Duraludon and the Lugia. So I actually think Guja's like in a better spot than I thought initially, because I thought that like Lugia switching over to that type of build would kind of push Guja completely out of the meta, but I don't think it actually quite does. Let's get Lost Tina out of the way. D tier. I don't think it'll make it onto the graphic. That's gonna be my predictions for these. I'm gonna predict like 1 through 6 on the graphic for the graphic that they show on stream at the regional. I'm gonna predict the 1 through 6 on the graphic. So number 1, I'm predicting to be Lost Box. Sablezard could be in there, could not. It's kind of how they do that. Then there's gonna be Guardy. Then I'll predict. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna go Lost Box, Guardy, Lugia, Mew, Gudra, and then I don't know what would be the 6th deck, but I'll come up with something as we go through here on what I think the 6th deck would be. Honestly, it might be Lost Tina, as sad as that is, to be honest. Yeah, the 6th deck might be Lost Tina. Arc Duraludon, basically what Szymanski played to win EUIC. I don't think it's a great play right now. Most of the Lugia decks are having answers for it. It feels like Guardy, almost all Guardy players have an answer for it, have increased their answers for it. And I think if you're the deck's still pretty solid, because I don't know, you hold up pretty well against Lost Box. You hold up decently well. Like the Dragonite can be tough. You hold up decently well against Lost Box. Your Mew matchup, your Gardevoir matchup is really tough, and your Lugia matchup became tough because people are actually playing answers to your Pokemon now, as before they kind of weren't. Arceus Pile makes top 6. I could see that happening. All right, we'll say Arc Pile is. We'll see Arc Pile is the 6th deck on the. I could see that for sure. Yeah, Arc Pile will be the 6th slot. That sounds reasonable. Top 4. They're not saying top 4, top 6 as in like place. They're saying like top 6 as in like on the graphic. Would it be crazy to run a 1/1 Dur and 1/1 Urshi in Single Strike Lugia? That's just like too much space, I think. Your deck becomes too inconsistent at that point. Universe Gaming. Like you want to pick one, whatever one thinks is gonna be stronger. I think that's probably the way to go. Arctina might be the 6th, maybe. It could be. Arctina, I'm gonna put in B tier. I actually don't think it's actually a little bit of a weird one. I think Arctina is like actually an okay deck in the meta, but there's no. I think it's literally just a worse version of Mew, because I think most of your win conditions as Arctina are coming from Judge Path, and I think Mew is just a better deck at Judge Pathing. Even despite Drapion being a thing that exists. Even though it's a thing that exists, Drapion is. I still think Mew's just, even despite that, I think your expected win rate with Mew judge pathing people is better than Arctina judge pathing people, but they're effectively trying to, like, most of their wins come from literally doing the exact same thing. Like, Arctina and Mew are not beating anyone pretty much any other way, so I put Arctina in B. I still think it's a solid deck. Like, I think you have like solid matchups against most decks. Guardian matchup is fine. Lost Box matchups are fine. Your Lugia matchup is fine. Your Guja matchup is unfavorable. The Guja's tough. Guja's definitely tough. Mew, it's fine. You're just like judge pathing. You have big Pokemon. Like, a lot of your matchups are fine, but you're kind of just worse than Mew, I think, overall. But it's still like a solid deck, and it'll be like kind of like a consistently a solid deck. Yeah. Arc Peak, I think, has the same problems as Arc Dur does. Like, you kind of fall into the same situations. Your Guardian matchup is just so tough right now, and having a bad Guardian matchup seems really bad going into Portland specifically, because like I said, I think Guardian will be like the second most popular deck, probably around 18-20, well, I'd probably say 15 to 20% for that, and Lost Box in the 15-20% range. I'd lean more higher to 20%, I guess, for Lost Box than Guardi, but yeah, just taking a loss to Guardian going to Portland just seems really bad. So taking a hard matchup to Guardi seems really bad, like this weekend in general, so I wouldn't want to do that, which I think both these decks struggle with heavily. Is the Guardi matchup right now. If Guardi comes down in percentage, though, I think that really helps the Arceus decks. When Guardi makes its way around, which I think it will, like, I don't think it's going to be that popular past Portland, probably, but for Portland, and like, this is just like a tier list based on like Portland predictions. Like, you know, next major tournament, I could have Arc Peak up here at tier A, because I'm like, well, Guardi's not really a thing anymore. You're really good against everything else. Also, the Guja. Guja's really popular right now as well, and Guja's really hard for Arc Peak specifically as well. Arc Dura is a little bit better time against Guja, but I think that one's pretty close as well. I don't know. That one I'm actually not too sure on. It probably is favored for Arc Dura. Yeah, probably that one's probably favored for Arc Dura, but Arc P can't have a good time against Guja for sure. I think there's no way you got a good time against that. Miraidon, I think, is actually a pretty powerful deck. The meta's just really bad for it. I don't think it's going to change until we get a new set where Miraidon could have a moment. It might not even happen until rotation, but rotation we use the Regieleki VMAX, so it probably won't even happen then. Are you doing any coaching this weekend? My coaching is basically booked up until June. So if you're looking to get coaching with me, I always recommend booking as soon as possible, because my schedule is always super full up. And on Medify, on my coaching page, you can book like 2 months out in advance. So it's like each, you know, new day, new week, more slots will be opening up usually 2 months from now. Sometimes some slots will open up in the middle of that time stretch. But my coaching stays pretty booked up pretty consistently. So if you're ever interested in getting coaching from me, the best time to get coaching from me is now for like a month and a half from now. But how does Miraidon ever win against Lost Box? Go fast and pray, because they go pretty, like, Lost Box is really good at going fast, even for like little damage with the cram, but that's all they need to do against Miraidon. That's kind of like why the matchup is so good for Lost Box, is like, you don't really need those huge pop-offs to kind of keep on pace with Miraidon. If you're interested in all the information for my coaching, you can find on my page. Just put exclamation point coaching in the chat. You'll be able to find it. Penny Control, after playing more of it, the Guardi matchup seems super tough, and once again, Guardi does not seem like a matchup that you want to take an L to, like that hard of a matchup to, and I think Penny Control has that problem right now. So the Guardian matchup is like really, really bad. So I'm going to put Penny Control in C. But I think Sanders deck's really cool. There's a lot of possibilities with it. If you got some other control stuff that you think you can get over the Guardian matchup with, then I think Control's a pretty good play. But I wouldn't want to go into this weekend at Portland taking a rough Guardian matchup. So I'd put that rough of a Guardian matchup. Because like I said, I think Mew's unfavored to Guardi, but it's not that bad. So yeah, I wouldn't want to take that rough of a Guardian matchup as Penny Control I think has. So Penny Control down here. Urshi and Teleon. This deck I need to do. I just haven't played with this deck at all. I would say it's at least B, though. I wouldn't put it to C, because I think actually your matchups, Urshi and Teleon's matchups against Lost Box decks seem really, really good. And then your matchup against Guardi seems decent as well. So I think you're favored. You might be favored against both of these decks. You're definitely coming up short to Mew. I don't know. You have the double Drapion, so maybe that's not even as bad as I think. Your Lugia matchup seems tough. That's one that's for sure. Your Lugia matchup and your Guja matchup seem tough. Maybe this should be A. If that's actually how I think the matchups go, I would actually put this in A. Consistency, it does, I've heard that it has consistency issues, so that would probably make me want to make it a B tier. But having not played this personally, and those are my kind of predictions for how I think it matches up against things, I think I would put it in A tier for right now, to be honest. Like the deck, if you have a favorable Guardi and Lost Box matchup, which would be my predictions for how the deck should function, I would put it in A tier. So we're gonna keep this in A tier for right now. Maybe it's a deck that I'll test a little bit more this week if I have time to actually get a true understanding. But that's where I put it for now. Like, I can't test everything. I don't know everything, but this is my good assumptions. Palkia Box. This deck's cool. New deck that's popped up recently. I'm only putting it on here because it has like recent hype. This definitely could leave my tier list going to the next major tournament. Why exactly don't you enjoy playing Lugia V? It's just unfun. Like, I don't know. It's just unfun to play. Like, compared to other Pokemon decks, it's just like compared to other Pokemon decks, it's just unfun. Sounds like I've been talking on 1.75 speed. I just gotta talk fast. There's too many things to talk about. Urshigardi is like 50-50. I could see that as well. I'd have to play it. I haven't played it yet. Why exactly don't I enjoy it? It's just unfun. Like, compared to other Pokemon, it's just unfun. There's like no other better way to explain it than that. Like, that's all I have. That's the only thing that I have to kind of go off is like, do I enjoy playing this? How much do I enjoy playing Lugia versus other Pokemon decks? And it's just like super unenjoyable. It's a very unenjoyable experience. Palkia B-Barrel, pretty consistent deck. Very straightforward, very linear. And I don't think it has enough power. It doesn't have very much power behind it. So I don't think I can put it above B, but I would definitely play it over everything in C. I would definitely play Palkia B-Barrel over everything in C. I don't think I'd play it over anything in A, though. The deck's just not powerful enough. It's a cool deck. It would be really cool to see someone do well with it as well, and like kind of maybe innovate on it a little bit, or kind of like prove its power level to me. Well, not to me specifically, but like prove its power level overall. Then I could definitely see bumping it up, but I right now have it as a B. You can beat a lot of things, but your power level is just super low. You're super predictable. Yeah, a pretty mid deck overall. I think it fits probably nice here against Arctina, because Arctina also, like I said, Arctina's not bad, but it's like, why would you play it over so many other decks? It doesn't make any sense. Like, your power level is like reasonable with Arctina. I feel like the same way about Palkia. Like, your power level is reasonable. It's just not quite good enough. And then we got the last one here. We got Kyurem VMAX. But yeah, I'm gonna put Kyurem VMAX in C, because I think your Lugia matchup, or not your Lugia, I think your Guardian matchup is tough. I think your Lost Box matchup is tough. I think your Mew matchup is tough. And this is another deck that might not be on the tier list next time I do a tier list prior to one of these big events, because Azul and Turbolox, is it worth cutting Hawlucha? I don't really like Hawlucha. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's like okay. Hawlucha's like very okay. I don't think it adds that much of an... it doesn't like... If you could consistently utilize it, not just by finding it, but consistently utilize it by like the board setting up in a way where the Hawlucha is good, I would play it. But it doesn't happen that often as you think. So I'm not a huge fan of Hawlucha in like the Turbo Lost Box. I think in like Kyogre Lost Box or Sable's Art, it makes a little bit more sense. But in like the Turbo Lost Box, the Hawlucha is like, like I don't know. It's like meh. Like the board states where it's actually that good don't really come up that often. So yeah, I probably wouldn't play the Hawlucha in the Turbo Lost Box. Remember, if you guys have any questions for me about any lists or matchups, put them in chat now, and I'll answer them while I have time. Yeah, definitely Hawlucha kind of mid. Yeah. What's one challenge this weekend? Should I play Guardy without Mewtwo or Turbo Lost Box list? I mean, I'd probably say Turbo Lost Box. That's what I would recommend. Guardy without Mewtwo is also solid. But for locals, are a little bit different. If you have like a prediction on your local meta, like I would play Guardy if I don't think there's going to be that much Lost Box. If I think there's going to be a lot of Lost Box, I'd either square up with Lost Box or play Lugia Dura probably. If there's going to be a lot of Lost Box, I'd probably play Lugia Dura. If there's not going to be a lot of Lost Box, I'd play Mewtwo. Guardy for Sablezard? Sablezard's favored by quite a bit. You're just a Sableye deck. Like, Sableye just kind of picks Guardy apart pretty handedly, like, by itself. As long as you get there. And then, yeah, Kyurem. I think it's a little bit of a meme. Like, you're not holding up well enough against any of the top decks. I was very surprised by how good Kyurem is. But yeah, we're going to put him in the C tier. And this one, I would love to be proven wrong. I would love for someone to top 8 Portland with Kyurem VMAX. I don't think it's gonna happen. It could happen. That'd be sick. That would be super sick. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen here. So we've got Kyurem in the C tier for this one. As always, would love to be proven wrong. That was gonna have to go with that. Why is Guardy bad into Lost Box? Sableye just kind of picks you apart too. Like it's just easy for Lost Box to get the first prize card and then like never whiff a prize card after that, or even get ahead 2 prize cards. Can you say how Sableye picks apart Guardy? Because like you KO Ralts or Kirlia with a Sableye, and then you put damage somewhere else, and you KO that with another Sableye. Or you just like get the first prize card with Cram, then they whiff a knockout, you get another prize card with Cram, or you like hit something that gets more damage in play, then you go into Sableye, get a single prize turn or a double prize turn, and then you just chain Sableyes from there for the rest of the game, and then maybe you close out with a heavy hitter like Snorlax or Dragonite V whenever it's convenient in the middle of the game to get ahead to stay ahead in the prize exchange, or at the end of the game just to win the game. So yeah, and it's because it's like hard, like you can just like get multi prize turns with Sableye, or you just get ahead because like some Guardy lists I've been playing 4 candy, which I think makes you hold up a little bit better against Lost Box, and might be the way to go for Guardy, is to play that 4 rare candy builds that I've been seeing. Or if you stick with the 2 rare candy build, then you're going to be like not always getting turn 2 Guardy, which means you're not turn 2 attacking. If you're not turn 2 attacking, then the Lost Box player can get 2 prize cards ahead before you get anything done, and you just get kind of cooked from there. To cook with your Goodra deck, what do I think about that? Sounds inconsistent, which means probably not great because Goodra's already struggles with inconsistency. Yeah, not a big fan. I think Guja's #1 problem is not healing more, but setting up more consistently. Looks like on my locals, people don't know how to deal with Lugia with Lost Box, even as I don't know what I'm doing with Lugia. They end up losing is using Dura VMAX, a real pay against Lost Box. It's okay, but they can like 2-hit KO it with Dragonite and then go for like 2 attacks for 3 prize cards, which isn't a good trade for the Lugia player, but it's like not terrible because they don't really have a way to 1-hit KO it, so it's like fine to use, to be honest. It's like fine. It depends what else you would be attacking with. Yeah. All right, I think it's gonna do it for the tier list. Any more questions in chat, I'll answer those. If you have any more questions in chat, I'll answer those, and that's gonna wrap up this video. Or wrap up this this tier list Portland discussion. But I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. A little bit more in depth on decks, card choices. Yeah. Oh, I didn't pick like the 6th most popular deck, did I? I have to pick that. I don't know what that'll be, to be honest. That's actually kind of up in the air. I'm gonna let's give it to Arctina. I think Lost Zone Tina is really bad. I kind of want to give it to Lost Zone Tina, but let's go with Arctina. So let's say the top 6 are going to be #1 Lost Box, #2 Guardy, #3 Lugia, #4 Mew, #5 Gudra. Because on the graphic on the stream they show 6, and then for #6 my prediction is going to be Arctina, because people have to come around on Lost Tina. Like, it sucks. Lost Tina sucks. Is that supposed to be worth it in Turbo Lost Box? No. Rhydon's not good enough to warrant playing it. And it's too inconsistent of an answer against Arceus, and it's not even that good against Arceus decks either, because you're like going 2 for 2, which like speeds up the prize trade, which I think actually might favor Arceus decks in the long run, to be honest, because you don't have like a bunch of ways to KO Arceuses, so they almost are glad for the 2 for 2 trade-off sometimes. Yeah, they're almost like glad, like you'd rather play it slower as Arceus. Arceus has a great matchup spread. It really doesn't. It's like slightly unfavored against most of the top decks. It's just like, it's like a very mediocre deck. It has just enough power level to kind of keep up with most things in the format, or pretty much everything in the format. I think it'd be reasonable for it to be the 6th most popular deck. Yeah, I think it's reasonable for Arctina to be the 6th most popular deck. Or I hope it's that over Lost Tina. I hope that people come around on Lost Tina and understand that Lost Tina sucks. And then they, at least if they're going to play a Tina deck, they play Arctina. We can only hope. We can only hope for their sanity that they come around, but you know, people are stubborn. So actually, you know what? No, it should be Sable's Art. If Sable's Art, okay, here's my prediction. If Sable's Art is lumped in with the other Lost Box decks, then it'll be Arctina. If Sable's Art is not lumped in with the other Lost Box decks, should you play Cleansing Gloves and Mew? I think you should. Yeah, I think Cleansing Gloves and Mew seems worth it right now, because Guard is going to be so popular for this one. It's also decent against Lost Box as well. I would say, yeah, Cleansing Gloves over 2nd Choice Belt. I like that idea for sure. So yeah, Cleansing Gloves has my seal of approval for Mew for sure. Is Green and VMAX with the gloves worth looking at? Maybe, probably not though. GG, I've been playing a ton of Goo, but Guardy scares me. Is Panic Mask or Rocky Helmet a good tech? I think possibly for Guardy. I don't know about Rocky Helmet. That's actually a new one. I think Panic Mask or the other one, not Rocky Helmet. Panic Mask or Box of Disasters could be good Guardy techs depending on the deck you're playing. So Lost Box has the best matchup spread across the board. Yeah, Turbo Lost Box I think probably has the best matchup spread across the board. What Lugia can use to beat Guardy even if your matchup got worse against everything else? You just add, I think the best tech is a 1 of Baby Yveltal. Like, you should play the Baby Yveltal for sure. With how popular Guardy is going to be this weekend, Lugia should 100% play Baby Yveltal.